Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everyone. It is a fact of life for many of us when you're in a situation where you just feel alone. And sometimes that's okay. Sometimes it's not. It's a different picture as you get older. And we're going to look at that picture today. The difference between lonely and loneliness, and also being alone. And she is somebody that helps the aging navigate a lot of this in many different regards. She's the woman behind a center, which is really a gateway for health, beauty, wellness, and aging services. They're located in New Mexico, and she is back with us. Founder of the Center for Ageless Living, Suzette Lindemuth, is on the program. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. We're very excited about the Center for Ageless Living because today we are reopening the Greenhouse Bistro and Bakery, which is our on-campus restaurant. We've been just doing takeout and catering for the last several months, and now we're back to opening up for eat-in dining on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, 11 to 7.
Beautiful. Can I ask why did you shut down to in-house dining?
So we shut down because we were short-staffed and had a hard time recruiting, somebody that we felt could execute our mission of, healthy food. And, we intentionally do not do any Mexican or New Mexican style food here. So we concentrate on fresh vegetables and salads that we grow a lot of our own fresh vegetables here on the campus. So it took a little time to find another chef to come on board, and we're excited that we've been able to do that, and we're going for it.
Very exciting, and you're not alone. It's pretty much any business has staffing issues, but certainly restaurants, you can feel it. The weight and all of that. So congratulations on bringing that back in. I got to tell you, there's something about every time we talk about the Greenhouse Bistro, it just sounds good. Like I want to go there. I don't know what it is.
Well, join us. You can find us on Facebook, and we have our new little video out about our mission to open up. And Stephanie is our food manager, and Jerry's one of our chefs. And we have Chris coming on board, and we have a great team with Blanca and Mackenzie. And of course, Nicole is our social media and communication specialist. And we're just happy we have a good team now. It's taken some time, but we are ready to invite you to come back in to see us and join us. And of course, we also do serve poolside at the spa, so that's always a nice thing to do, is to come and have lunch and swim and relax.
So the topic of loneliness and being alone definitely escalates as you get older. It's a different situation. Maybe your spouse has passed on, your circle changes. Where can we start with that in terms of those who are aging and loneliness?
So I think loneliness is one of those emotions and feelings that we have that really can disconnect us pretty quickly. And so I think it's something that we all have to be cautious of, and especially as we age. I mean, we can become emotionally lonely. We can have physical loneliness. We can have situational loneliness. So it's something that we have to really think about. And the difference between being alone and loneliness is so different that we don't want them to get confused in our minds, and we don't want our families to become confused by it, because a lot of people, oh, mom is alone. She's so alone, but she's really not lonely because she's still going out. She's still functioning. She's happy to be alone. And, there is some value to having time by yourself. I think we all crave some alone time. Mm-hmm. So that's not what we're really talking about. We're talking about when that feeling becomes overwhelming, and the loneliness or the loss that we're starting to feel, or the inability to feel like we can connect with friends and family, or physically we're having some kind of disability that's really creating isolation and loneliness. That's a very different emotion and a different feeling.
Interestingly, this isn't just a challenge for those who are older. It was reported a few months ago that the demographic that is very high up there in terms of feeling isolated and alone, and this blew my mind, and this came from maybe the CDC, it is males between the ages of 25 and 34. And the perception would be, yeah, you're just hanging out with your friends, maybe play a game of basketball, go out, go to a pub, whatever it might be. But they're feeling it too. I don't know. I don't know if it's a product of post-COVID or whatever the situation may be. When there are people within your center that you detect are in that situation, how do you address it?
Well, I think the first thing you have to do is really just listen to them and be have some empathy about that process that they're going through. And you're right. I think there's so many different population groups that are now feeling totally disconnected for many, many reasons. I think for elderly, which is the group that I work with most, I really feel it's about loss and feeling that they really don't have any choices or options. And I think you just really have to sit down and listen to their concerns. And then I think you have to engage them in reminding them that there are things that they can still do and that there are still people that they can still meet and you can make new friends. I really don't like that saying that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I think we all can learn some new tricks. And so we try to engage our elders in going outside. I think being outside opens up your mind to new possibilities, meeting new people. And I think that's one of the good things about assisted living and sort of community living is that you have an opportunity to meet new people, which you don't always have if you're in your own home and physically you're becoming isolated. And then, that the problem with isolation and loneliness is that it turns into depression so quickly. And depression is really where you have to seek medical help and medical intervention, because if you've already haven't recognized the signs of a loneliness and you haven't started to be actively engaged in learning new things and meeting new people and getting more involved in your community, it can swing into depression so fast. And that's when, you're just really not eating, not willing to get out of bed, not willing to get dressed, you won't want to take a shower. I mean, all of those things start to spiral really fast. So I think the trick is to recognize in yourself that you're feeling this overwhelming loneliness and what can you do to stop it and do self-intervention.
And when you start going down that rabbit hole of depression, less of a chance of meeting anybody because I can't deal.
Yeah.
And then you're intentionally isolating because you're just not feeling it, which very, very challenging. And especially for those who are older that maybe weren't very extroverted. They might have had their partner for life. Things have changed. Maybe that person was a little more outgoing, and that's where they got that touch of togetherness with others. Now it's a different situation. To move past that, to reinvent yourself, if you will, is challenging. It's challenging. Do you create different groups there within the center to foster that togetherness?
I think we try. I think that's always hard, but I think one of the most successful things that we do are to bring people into that spa healing, kind of a tranquil place where they can feel safe. And, so we intentionally have lots of classes, yoga, Tai Chi,
Wow.
swim classes, and those groups tend to form very strong relationships. I mean, they'll call each other when they don't show up for classes. And so that's a great way for individuals to start to deal with that feeling of loneliness. And then when something traumatic happens, because and just like we had one of our instructors, she's been coming to the spa, she's been an instructor for years, and her husband traumatically died suddenly. I mean, it was not expected. And for her, it was such a major change. And yet that community that she had built at the spa kept her strong, and she came back, and she has continued to, I think, cope with that loss in a very constructive, healthy way. Very sad, there's no way to get around the sadness and the feeling of being alone. But I think the loneliness isn't what she's experiencing. I think she's feeling alone and grieving, but I think she has avoided the rabbit hole of loneliness and depression, which is really what I think community services can do. I think in our residential setting, it is just bringing together elders who are all in the same boat, who really cannot live alone because of lots of reasons.
Sure.
And they can commiserate and talk about that journey with the people that are there. And then the staff, which are a different generation, also help to bridge that gap. So they're meeting new people and new friends just through the staff that come in every day to help them. And, even though we've tried to keep our professional hat on, I mean, we do become their extended family and their friends. And that's important. I mean, you can't not have that connection with the people that you're taking care of, even though there is the professional role that we all have.
Absolutely. Well, that's part of the experience of being at a center like you have, because it's that connection. You want that connection. I love the spa idea. Wow. That is just fantastic, because people like-minded getting together, be fine if it was, food tasting, whatever it might be. But this is
Right.
with an eye on health and exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Just terrific. And, as you said it, then I started thinking, you know what? I go to the gym. Literally, the gym in this building is not even a quarter of a mile away. So I really don't have an excuse not to go. But I've met people there. I've, in fact, this past weekend, I ran into one gentleman who I met there when I was out at a restaurant music venue, and we hung out for a little while. So there is definitely something there within the when the exercise and health aspect of things.
Yeah.
What do you suggest to people who detect that their loved one is going through some challenges of loneliness? Let's say it's a son or daughter of a parent that they're feeling that, yeah, mom or dad, that they're starting to, decline. They're not in touch with the world like they used to be. What's your advice there?
Well, I think there can be so many dynamics that go on when someone's life starts to change. And, age is something that is not always a critical factor. It's really sort of more behavior and function. I think if you start to see somebody who you care for, that you love, and someone in your family, and they, again, I think when they stop eating is a huge red flag. And, you can kind of monitor that. Sometimes people stop taking their meds. I think once you start to see those patterns, you really have to sit down and say, Mom, Dad, I'm starting to see these things. We're worried about you. We really want to figure out what we can do to help you, and say, listen, what can we do? Or sometimes you even have to say, here's what we're going to try. not what we're going to do, but here's what we're going to try.
Sure.
And, sometimes you have to involve the primary care doctor. I mean, sometimes there are medical issues. Sometimes there's infections that you're unaware of that are changing behavior. But to sort of just start to bring in those resources. You can hire caregivers on an hourly basis to come in and start to take them out for walks, start to make them lunch, eat a meal with them, take them out to eat. The senior centers are great resources. They can start to say, hey, Mom, I'm going to pick you up, take you to the senior center. Some people hate the senior center. Some people love the senior centers. I mean, if you could start to spend more time with them, that's always incredibly valuable, but we all have busy lives. That's not always easy. I think the other thing that you can do is particularly look at where someone is living. If they are living in an apartment complex where they have really close neighbors, is to try to say, hey, let's have a little tea party with our neighbors, and let's kind of get to know them and try to engage and build a community within where they live. I think sometimes we forget that our neighbors can be an important source of friendship. And I always say, it's nice when you're walking around your neighborhood, to start saying hi to everybody. And, some of us live in big neighborhoods where we don't have that close proximity. But it is important to, be able to talk to your neighbors. And they don't have to be the same age. Even if there's children, you can say, hey, could you come over and sit with Mom and play, cards with Mom, twice a week. And, a little 14, 15-year-old might be willing to do that if they're right across the street or down the neighborhood or,
Sure.
In the apartment complex. So, I think you have to make a conscientious effort to build community. And sometimes that takes a family member. I'm a recreation therapist, so for me, that's an easy job. Like, I just knock on the door and say, hey, my mom's over here and I need your help. You just have to kind of be able to engage in that process. Some people can't do that, and so you might have to go more a professional route. But I do think you have to engage individuals to come into the home or get mom, dad to go out of the home, however that works. And then ultimately, if that doesn't work and, you've identified physical or mental or health issues, obviously primary care physicians need to address those kind of issues.
When we look at we look at loneliness. Just to further define the two, what truly is the difference between them?
Well, I think when you feel lonely, it really should last about, it's an emotion that should last about 5 minutes. You shouldn't feel lonely like a really long time. If you start to feel lonely a long time, then it turns into loneliness. And then of course, when you start to decline because of loneliness sitting in you, and it goes into depression. So it's sort of that kind of train wreck. So sometimes, you can feel lonely around a group of people, where you don't feel like you're connecting to them, or, sometimes even with your spouse, you're like, I just feel so lonely. They don't want to do the same things I want to do anymore. But, you kind of get over it. You see things, alternatives very fast. It doesn't sink into a long-lasting emotion that starts to be deteriorating your health.
Yeah.
So I think that those are sort of the stages that you can see how it kind of can progress. I mean, I think we all feel lonely occasionally, but if it lasts, more than a normal amount of time, I think you really have to, really step back and say, whoa, this is turning into loneliness, and I'm feeling lonely. This loneliness is overwhelming. I'm starting to feel like I don't want to go outside. I can't engage. That's when you have to really do self-intervention if you can. And then if it starts to get worse, you're just going to have to, almost seek some counseling or therapy services, or see your primary care doctor and try to rule out, what are the, underlying causes that could be physical, chemical. I mean, people have chemical depression. So,
Sure.
I mean, it could be something other than loneliness.
When life changes and somebody is aging and feeling loneliness, it's amazing how, yes, that is serious in itself, but how, as you said, it can lead to so many other challenges like high blood pressure, cognitive issues, anxiety, depression, as we said. Technology, interestingly, for those who are younger, teens, it's a good thing and a bad thing. But when we look at in a senior population, I view it as a great thing. I don't see any negatives there at all. And even things like a photo frame that shows pictures that family members can upload pictures to. One of them, not selling anything, Framo is one of them. $50. And somebody could put that on their nightstand and feel connected. Oh, that's just a new picture from my grandchild, and they could be in another part of the world. Certainly, video chats and things like that, I believe, can make somebody feel much more connected. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I don't know how we made it through COVID without technology, because the Zoom meetings with your family members, and that's something that I think. You can live far away from your mom or your dad or your brother and your sister, and, you can connect once a week very easily with them. And, I think we have to rely on technology these days to keep our elders connected. They have Facebook. They can learn to be on. My mom was on Facebook till she was 95.
Wow, good for her.
And she couldn't figure it out, but she was on there. So, and it was a great way. And we do Zoom visits with my mom. And of course, it's difficult when people can't hear and there's some other physical restrictions. But generally speaking, if they can see you, then they can relate to you and they feel less lonely. So I think it's critical. And, I love Feeding Phil. We like the show. And of course, at the end of Feeding Phil, which is a Netflix food show, he gets on and always talk to his mom and dad in New York. And they always told a joke and they kind of laughed about where he was. And so that was a wonderful way to say, listen, Mom and Dad, I'm going to call you every Saturday night while we're eating, and we're going to eat together via Zoom. We're going to have this connection and, be creative about how to do that, show Mom and Dad what you're eating. You know what, Mom? So, because that's a connection. Eating together is such a strong social bond. And I think that's one thing for elders. And even if you live alone, sometimes it's hard to eat by yourself. But for elders, it's so important to have somebody eating with them. And that's why meal sites are so supportive. There are meal sites almost in every community where seniors can go and get meals and eating with a group of people. So food time is a critical time. It is a time, like Alice Waters said, we come together to share the stories of our lives. Those are, when we come to eat together. So it is important to remember that that's a great time to connect. Do a Zoom meeting over dinner with your loved one.
Connect. That's the word. You've said it a couple of times, and it's so crystal clear now when we apply it to loneliness and seniors being lonely. And certainly, if it's a possibility, volunteering. Sometimes we forget about that.
Mm-hmm.
If a senior can get to a location, whatever it might be, what a way to just feel good, feel joy, and then connect with others.
Yeah, and you don't really have to have any special expertise in anything to volunteer. I mean, everybody can use a volunteer. I mean, we use volunteers here at the center. We have people coming in to play music and to sing and to play cards and, dance, whatever that is. And so, don't be afraid to pick up the phone or get in the car and go to a community center and see what you can be involved in. I mean, it's not a scary thing. I know some people go, oh, I don't want to meet new people. We have to meet new people. You have to meet new people. I mean, people are going to die, and we're going to lose our friends and our relatives and our families. And if you don't make new friends, you are going to be lonely. So you have to kind of get out there and remember that there are a lot of people in the United States.
Sure. And easier said than done.
And it's okay to meet a few of them.
Right. And decide if you really want to meet them. It's,
right.
it's easier said than done. But if you change your mindset that it's fun meeting new people, learning new things, where do they come from? Where do they grow up? As opposed to, well, I'm shy, and I get it. I'm not minimizing anything, but to feel that, I don't know if I could talk with them and carry the conversation. We all can. Because we all have a story. Mm-hmm. I'm interested in your story. I'm interested in anybody's story. And there's takeaways. You'll learn from it. You'll learn about yourself when others speak. I think it's mindset as well. I truly believe that.
And believe me that when you hit 90, you have a lot of stories to tell. And they're all very interesting.
I will.
I mean, most people who have hit 90 have had very interesting lives.
Yes, I have to tell you, as I get older, I look to connect with older people in a number of different ways. I respect them for what they've done in their lives and where they are now and have they gotten to that age. It fascinates me. I don't know what it is. I don't know what happened. I guess I got old. I don't know.
Well, we're all going to get old. That's true. But just remember that agelessness is the art of growing old without regard to time.
Love it. It is a great center in New Mexico. What's the website again?
So it's nmagelessliving.com. You can email me at Suzette@nmagelessliving.com. If you're in New Mexico, come by and see us. Again, the Greenhouse Bistro and Bakery is now open for lunch and dinner, Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays, 11 to 7.
You beat me to it. I was going to say, when I'm in New Mexico, I know where I'm going, and it's right there. Thank you so much today for everything, Suzette. Such an important topic, and I appreciate it. And we'll get together next time.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.